There we go. Okay. Well, we'll just continue on having a chat. I will introduce you. So, Peter Engelhardt, and we're talking all about the Plan2Brand podcast. And the Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast Network is so honoured to be working with you on this really special project. You're going to be sharing a bit more about what the project is and how we can all get involved in this, because this is not just about you and I. We've got guest experts coming up, and of course, everybody who is in business, an entrepreneur who has a voice and something to share, is certainly going to be invited to share that. So, Peter, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, this is very exciting. Yeah, it was funny, wasn't it? We connected. I was just thinking, it was only 3 months ago. Well, 3 or 4 months ago. This was a little germ of an idea, and we've partnered together, which is an awesome thing. They say partnering is a very powerful way to grow a business and a brand.
Yes.
And so we're going to tell everybody what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's incredible. We were at a meeting and you happened to mention something when we were just doing some brainstorming around the table and discussing. And it's one of those things, be careful what you say, because if it's a great idea, you'll probably be doing it in the next couple of months, which is great, which is what it's all about, ideas and taking action.
Well, that's the whole point. I think in today's market, businesses just have to be awesome. They have to do things that stand out, that jump out. If you do things the way you always did them, you're not going to survive. So I had this idea of creating a branding tool that would help companies understand what branding is, but it turns out that is just so deep and complex and really hard for people to get their head around. And I thought as another platform to help people get on board and start learning all about branding, to get clarity and focus around what it is, because so many people misunderstand the point of branding and they don't understand that it's actually quite in reach for most businesses if they want to look into it a little bit further. I know there's a big barrier between who to trust with, handing over the money to someone who says, I'm going to help you grow a brand. Often people don't understand what that is even involves. I mean, when you go and buy some clothing, say a pair of jeans, you know what you're looking at. You can compare a good pair of jeans to a cheap pair of jeans when you hold them up, and the same for a meat pie or a car, But when it comes to branding, if you're shopping around, I want someone to help me with my brand, I mean, you've got to know what you're asking for or looking for. And that got me thinking, no, it'd be great if I could help people understand brands. So I have this Plan2Brand platform, which is an online tool people can use. And I thought it would be really cool to, market that, but get people to experience a different way of understanding what a brand is and what it can do for their business. And this is how the podcast was born. But we weren't going to leave it just at a podcast. So if many of you listeners or Facebook viewers might have read, we are going to be we're going to have a monthly podcast with an international expert. We're going to have a live Facebook discussion a couple of weeks after each podcast where people can discuss what went down, give their comments and thoughts, get in on the discussion. This whole thing's being followed by an editor come writer. And I'm happy to say we've locked her in. Now, I didn't tell you that, did I?
No, yay. There you go.
Yes, so we've got a writer on board now. That's three amigos, okay? Yeah. And so that's awesome. She's going to edit that all together into a great book in about 12 months' time. And everyone listening, if they want to follow the process, you might be able to get your name in a book and all your comments and thoughts as well. So that's the idea. And then we're going to give away all the proceeds. It's not about making money. We're going to give all the proceeds out there to Kiva. which I'm sure
Yes.
many of you know about Kiva. Yeah.
Yeah, Kiva loans. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Deserving entrepreneurs, we live in a lucky country, so let's see if we can help some people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Peter, there may be some people who are viewing this broadcast and maybe even the recording that may not yet know who you are. So do you want to just share a little bit with people who you are, what your background is, and why you're so passionate about brands?
Okay. Yes. Well, in Melbourne, Australia here, I've had my own company. I worked it out the other day for 30 years. We do marketing, websites, logos, all sorts of things for clients. And in all of that time, I've been it's really annoyed or bugged me that most businesses that want our help can't give us a good brief. They really have not thought through any of the strategic issues that are sort of more important today than ever. And when I say strategic issues, I'm talking about things like answering simple questions like, why should someone buy from them and not the competition? What are they in the market? Are they the cheapest? Are they the quickest? Are they gold-plated and the best? What is their unique point of difference, and what value do they offer the customer? If you look at any sort of really big international brand, they have a brand promise. And that's why a lot of big companies, all the ones we know and love, they succeed because they're very strategy driven. And I got obsessed watching all of these small businesses essentially just tactic driven, just jumping from one tactic to the next, no consistency, no underlying thought to where they're heading. They just started a business and they're looking for someone to help them. And I firmly believe it's up to them to provide the inspiration behind their brand, because any marketer, they can't, a marketer, I don't want to be rude to people, but you can't sell a lemon, you can't, marketers can't sell businesses that are just ordinary like everyone else. You're wasting your money. So if you've got a point of difference, if you start thinking about that issue strategically and eventually come up with a brand strategy, you'll start to sort of jump ahead of the competition. So that's when I started this online tool, which started as a workshop, to help people understand branding, what it can do for their business, and then actually build the components that form their brand foundations. Yeah.
I think in this market too, Peter, it's so competitive, isn't it? And it's constantly changing. And there are already businesses that we know, even many years ago, that haven't gone and revisited their brand, what they stand for, the market. And so people or businesses who have not yet clearly defined some of the key things that we're going to be talking in upcoming podcasts in the series and then in the Facebook Live discussions here, if they haven't gone through the process, they may very well find that a competitor launches their business that's in the same field or industry, and their business, because they haven't got clear on these key components, will almost see them plummet overnight, or certainly over a shorter period of time, yeah?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing that got to me, I did some research, and there is something like 350,000 websites a week coming online. That's the competition. Everyone thinks they can go online and they'll succeed, and it's getting more competitive by the minute. And so you have to be very clear on your message to cut through, to get above the noise. There's many reasons for sort of thinking like a brand and not just sort of running a business. But, I'm sure everyone's had the experience of getting a website built and asking for some digital help. And most of the time people say, oh, you should be doing a webinar or a blog or a podcast. Now, a lot of that content's not consumed. 80% of it, no one finds, no one reads. So the reason behind doing a podcast, the reason behind your blog needs to have something unique about it, needs to have real meaning, needs to be talking to a problem in an industry and the unique way you're solving it. And, most people, once they start to understand that a brand is about how you solve an industry's problems different to the competitor, it gives you something to talk about, an angle, if you know what I mean, not just the same old stuff everyone else says about their industry. So you really need to think about that point of difference, to have an opinion, and to be a little bit brave, go out on a limb and say, no, I'm going to fix this industry, and I'm going to build a brand that does X, Y, and Z, and be prepared to shout about it. And that way you will stand out, and people who believe what you believe are going to follow you, just like Simon Sinek says. So it's really important that people understand that concept if they're going to stand a chance nowadays of cutting through online and attracting people.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you said, I think is crucial, is around the core values, around the message that really connects with your ideal client or an audience. And so many studies have really shown that the new customer, or what they calling the entrepreneurial customer, who very much are millennials and mothers, they make up kind of the entrepreneurial customer, are very much committed to causes and to things that have meaning to them. And as you say, if people are not able to define that and bring that through all of the messages, the communications of their brand, they will go unheard, unseen, unnoticed, won't they?
That's right. And you bring up a really good point about the millennials. They also want to work for a company that, sure, it might be devoting some profits to a cause or whatever, but they want to work for a company that they know is heading somewhere, isn't just, trying to make some profits by the end of the year and they have a Christmas party. They want to work for purpose-driven companies that are certainly dynamic and growing. Otherwise, they'll flip from job to job until they find that sort of thing. They don't hang in like they used to. So if you want really good employees to hang with your business for any length of time nowadays, you need to be purpose-driven, and you need to have a culture and have everyone who's working for you, believing in the same thing. If that's, improving physiotherapy for sports people or improving physiotherapy for children, as long as you're clear on something and you're quite focused, then people who want to be part of that story will work for you and buy from you. So, and you just can't be all things to all people nowadays. You need to think about that strategically.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that on one of the podcasts, we've already interviewed you, of course, as a guest expert on the Smart Connect podcast. And what I think I might do, Peter, is share a link. Well, after we finish this live, we'll share a link so people can go and hear a bit more. You in full really provide an overview of each of the Plan2Brand steps, because that'll allow people to understand a little bit about more of each of the topics that we're going to be sharing, why that's so important. Because one of the things that you mentioned is that we want people to also to contribute. So let's just do some brainstorming around what kind of information are we going to be looking for, what kind of content, if you will. And I know this is going to be an evolving process, but let's just share a little bit about that so people can start to think about how they can contribute to the conversation, because this is really what we want to create, a community where we can have a conversation and to really have some great stuff, great conversation around this particular area.
Yeah, look, I think no one knows everything. I know so much about things, but I learn every day, and I learn just by having a conversation with so many people are smarter than me, and I'm loving understanding human nature and all of that. And having these conversations is going to, I think, benefit people, give them the courage to sort of own their own brand in the end, because we're going to be taking them through over 12 months about 7 to 8 broad steps And they think of them like a piece of a jigsaw, and those steps are the foundations to a strategic brand. And now you wouldn't build a house without a plan. In fact, it's law. That's why it's mandated that you have to have a plan to build a house. But for some reason, we're allowed to start a business without any sort of plan. So think of it as a very clever plan for your business is what we're going to be talking about, because I've linked these pieces together. And the more of them that you do, it's like the links in a chain, the stronger the chain. And we'll be talking about things like purpose and customer value proposition and some marketing terms and vision and things like that. But it's how they cleverly link together in the examples that I can show, etc., which is going to help, the penny drop on people to really get to understand this concept of branding. So we're going to demystify it. We're going to simplify branding without a doubt. I get a lot of that is the main comment I get from people who have done the online course, which is clarity. They all say, I'm really clear now on what I need to do and be to build this business. So, in fact, I'd like to drop the word brand strategy, because it's a very, I think it puts people off. It's a bit daunting. Yeah. So, so in particular, we're going to talk about the first discussion, which will go live probably within the month. We'll be recording early next week, is with Jack Delosa. So he's going to be talking broadly to the concept of brands versus businesses. He's a really good speaker. I love his insights. So we've got him to kick off the process, and then we'll launch into the first step. So the second month we're going to be doing the first step. That'll be why. Why are you in business, or purpose? So if anyone wants to sort of get a little bit of a head start on that, they could Google Simon Sinek. Maybe we should put that in the notes, the Simon Sinek why link to the TED video, so they can see the importance of understanding their why. So that is the first, and I'm reaching out to Simon. I'm positive. I'm hoping, I got my fingers crossed, that we'll have Simon on the second episode, but we'll see. We'll see. We're trying.
So what we should do is, if someone is listening to this or viewing it, and Simon, or maybe you are Simon and you're watching this, we want to talk to you and invite you to be a guest, because I love what you said, and it reminded me of that saying that if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So we want to create a room. We want to invite experts and people with a voice and people who are doing great things in their business and impacting their clients. We want to invite them to speak, because we're going to learn. We're creating the platform, and of course following the Plan2Brand system and process. So fantastic. Something else that I also want to just briefly talk about as well is that there may be some people thinking, well, we've kind of already understand where we are in terms of our brand, but this is not only going to be relevant for people who may be starting out, people who may not have yet the clarity around the brand, but a business who wants to just check in, wants to refocus a little bit, and just to make sure that the brand message and every component we're going to cover is going to sustain their business, whether it be business growth or whether it be because they know that there are changes in the marketplace. So this series is going to be relevant for people, even if they already have an understanding of their brand, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. And I'd challenge people if they think that set and forget works nowadays. It definitely doesn't, And if you look at any leading brand like Apple or Nike, Nike brings out, how often do they bring out a new shoe? Every single day there's a new design, whereas, a lot of businesses tend to do things the way they always did, and it's obvious to everyone that that's not working anymore. You have to innovate to some degree, or you have to reflect back on your target market and think about, are we servicing them as well as we could? I know everybody's experiencing harder times out there. There is more competition, Suddenly, yes, we've got the chance to trade internationally now and to talk to international audiences, but so does everyone else. And so I think you've got to start to understand that business isn't going to stand still in the future, even if that's just you adopting to new technology behind the scenes and doesn't really affect what you do externally. But in one way, shape or form, a brand has to think forward, look forward, innovate, get new ideas. And you can get great ideas by looking at other businesses in other industries and seeing if it would work in your industry, you know. It's and that's why we shouldn't just be talking to our industry peers. We've got to I think everyone has to cast the net wider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, one of the key, exciting things, as well as everything that we've just spoken about, of course, is that many of these aspiring entrepreneurs in developing countries, they have access to technology. So what we are sharing, I'm sure, can be, can certainly be harnessed and leveraged in those other countries. So we're really looking forward to being able to share that information. I'll just share that the Ambitious Entrepreneur Show was once syndicated on a national radio station in Zimbabwe. And so, I say that because, the information that we'll be sharing with our guest experts and, of course, the conversations that will continue from the people contributing, you never know where your voice, where your comment, where your information goes and lands and who it can impact. And I think that's what we're all about, isn't it? Really making a difference to entrepreneurs, no matter where they are. And together, and this is certainly the mantra, if you will, the mantra of the Ambitious Entrepreneur Network. Together, we can make a difference, and so really excited to share this project alongside you, and of course with everyone who is involved. Now, we do have a special link where people can register and then they get access to all of the things that are going on behind the scenes, but also when we've got an upcoming podcast show that's released and also when we've got upcoming lives. Peter, how can people register for that and get on our VIP list?
Yes, to get on the VIP list, www.plan2, and that's a number 2, plan2brand.com podcast. No, plan2brandpodcast.com.
Fantastic. Love it. And is there anything else that you want to share before we finish and start preparing for our guest that we are going to be interviewing next week? Anything else you'd like to share?
No, I'm just super excited to sort of put myself out there and see what happens. I mean, this is an experiment. We're really sort of pioneering this in a way, having a bit of fun. We don't know if 1 or 1 million people are going to end up following us, but I think we'll stir up a lot of things and get a big hum going. And that's the exciting thing is we haven't really locked it in any more than what we've talked about today. The show could turn into a fortnightly podcast, or it might go for 14 months, or it might go for 10, or so we're going to let it get a life of its own.
That's right.
And see how much support we get out there and how many lives we can change.
Yeah, absolutely. We create the platform. We're inviting other people to join us. And that, of course, is people that are viewing today who have a voice, who've got stories to share. As you said, Peter, we can all learn from one another. And one of the things that I think that is very much evident to you, and I know certainly from my point of view too, is, we spoke about we mentioned the word competition, but I think in this day and age, there is so much business out there. It's defining who your ideal client is, because you will do better work, or someone else can do better work with a demographic in the marketplace than another business in the industry. And I think if we go with the mindset of collaboration, supporting, and sharing and so forth, I think we really can make an incredible impact in the world where so much doom and gloom and other things that you hear as well. Let's just be the inspirational voice. So we really want people to reach out, get on our VIP list, become part of this, join us. This is just as much your platform as ours. We want to hear from you. Join the community, join the conversation. And yeah, we look forward to learning from everyone and certainly connecting with everybody as well as they come on the platforms and on upcoming shows and Facebook Lives.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We will shout out once the show goes live. This is the audio podcast with Jack Delosa. And then, of course, we'll be coming back to debrief that, to find out what people thought and certainly hear people's conversation around that too. And we'll certainly shout out once that goes live. All right. See you later, Peter.
Okay. See you, Annemarie. See you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.